the spirit of the Golden Empire. This is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Breaking overnight, a deadly plane crash in Iran kills more than 170 people. What investigators are saying about the crash and whether it was an act of terror.
This morning, we await a statement from President Trump after Iran launched missiles at an Iraqi air base with U.S. soldiers. The latest on damages and the search for casualties in this revenge attack.
And the final public forum on where to put a new homeless shelter in Bakersfield before the issue goes before the city council. We'll take you there as residents grapple with where it should go to get people off the streets. This is Wednesday, January 8th, 2020. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. It's a foggy morning out there, depending on where you are. Once again, super foggy for me and Tehachapi on the way in, but you were saying not as bad where you were.
Yeah, it's kind of like the roles have flipped.
Yeah,
Here's
exactly.
a look outside and near Tehachapi where you can see the dense fog is continuing to roll in.
That is actually fog. It's not just a gray picture.
You can't see much, but if you look closely, you can actually see the little particles moving through. But like you said, it was very difficult to drive on the 58 this morning.
Yeah, it was. Take it easy. Wherever you're going to go, you don't know where you're going to run into this fog. As Kevin always says, it's hard to forecast. And he's going to have more on that in a couple minutes as we kick off our cinnamon roll drive. So get ready for that this morning. We'll have details coming up in a few.
But again, here's a look at current visibility right now. And you can see that in Bakersfield, we've got 2 miles visibility. But if you look closely at the map, you can see that in the Tehachapi area is where we see that dense fog. So keep that in mind, especially if you were going up the 58 this morning and, just last night, CHP was pacing traffic near the Grapevine, it was actually before the Grapevine. It was near the outlets of Tejon because the fog was so dense. So that's the story that we've been seeing today, this morning. It's kind of what we saw yesterday on the valley floor as well. And we're going to have that dense fog advisory in effect for most locations, including the base of the Grapevine, through 11 a.m. this morning, so just keep that in mind, especially if you are traveling. Currently in Bakersfield, we're at 42 degrees with humidity at 92%. Winds are calm out of the west at 3 miles per hour, so we've been in the 40s for several hours. I mean, yesterday's high was 47. We've been in the 40s for most of the day yesterday and into today as well. So the question is, of course, will we see the 50s return? We could see the 50s return starting by 3 p.m. and with winds out of the northwest at 6 miles per hour. And in Tehachapi right now, you're looking at 30 degrees with humidity at 100%, as you can imagine, because it is foggy out there. And here's what you can expect over the next several hours. We're going to warm it up into the low 40s by 3 p.m. Kevin, we'll have a look at your full forecast coming up in about 15 minutes. But first, let's look at traffic and take you outside for the first time this morning. Here's a look at the 99 near White Lane. And very different picture from yesterday. Yesterday, it was very foggy at that location. Things are clearing up there, of course. But again, just keep in mind that it is very foggy over the 58 right now. So if you are traveling, be prepared for that. But other than that, it's all looking great across the county. We'll have another check coming up in about 15 minutes.
It's 5:03 now, and breaking news out of Iran this morning. A Ukrainian airplane carrying at least 170 people crashed early today, shortly after takeoff from Tehran's main airport. Everyone on board the plane at the time of the crash died. The Boeing 737 plane took off from the Imam Khomeini International Airport in the Iranian capital. The crash is suspected to have been caused by mechanical issues, not an act of terror. An investigation team was at the site of the crash in the southwestern outskirts of Tehran, a civil aviation spokesperson said. An Iranian emergency official later told state TV all of those on board were killed in the crash. Rescuers are now working to collect the dead from the wreckage. Tehran's civil aviation organization says it will not give the black box from the plane to Boeing.
And this morning, we continue our coverage of the Iranian attack at an Iraqi air base with U.S. soldiers.
Just hours ago, Iran's supreme leader addressing the nation about the attack. The U.S. military confirmed the attack happened at Al-Assad Air Base yesterday. Here's a map to help put things into perspective. The Al-Assad Air Base has been used by the military since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Yesterday, Iran launched more than a dozen missiles at the base. NBC News also reported a second attack at a different base in the city of Erbil. One missile found in a field there. No deaths were reported as of this morning. Iran says the operation was given the code name Martyr Soleimani. The attack was revenge for the attack that killed Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian commander killed by a U.S. airstrike on Friday under the orders of President Trump. Early this morning, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said the attack was a slap in the face for the U.S.
So far, President Trump has not issued an official statement on the attack, but yesterday he tweeted the following message. All is well. Missiles launched from Iran at 2 military bases located in Iraq. Assessment of casualties and damages taking place now. So far, so good. We have the most powerful and well-equipped military anywhere in the world by far. Now, we are monitoring things from Washington this morning, and we will bring you the president's remarks later this morning.
Major updates on an accident we first told you about yesterday on Sunrise. Police say a child involved in the crash that we first reported here on Sunrise yesterday morning has died. The crash happened after 3:30 a.m. on Cottonwood Road and East Pacheco Road. BPD says a man driving with the children was headed south on Cottonwood when a driver in another car pulled out in front of them. A 3-year-old, 2 9-year-olds, and a 12-year-old suffered serious injuries. BPD confirms one of the 9-year-olds has died. BPD says the suspect, Evaristo Nunez, now faces a charge for the child's death and for running away from the crash. Officers arrested him yesterday at his home, according to a BPD news release. 5:06 now. Homelessness in Kern County is an issue we continue to follow closely here at KGET. The city of Bakersfield held the third in a series of meetings last night where people could comment about the development of a new low-barrier shelter.
While some opposed the project, others applauded the city's plan. 17's Amber Frias was there and has more on the story.
The city of Bakersfield is looking at 2 possible locations for a new low-barrier shelter, a site on East Brundage Lane near Mount Vernon Avenue and a site on Brown and East 18th Streets. While plans for one of these sites is ready to go, those who live nearby may not be. For some, the problem is location.
Take it out the roads at the Hagen Oaks, they don't want it. I don't want it either.
Others say the city hasn't done enough planning.
I think Bakersfield is acting too quickly and spending these millions on a facility that we do not know is going to work.
And some say it's time to get moving.
It's going to help your area. It's going to help our community. It's not going to hurt it.
Dozens of Bakersfield residents made their voices heard Tuesday evening during a public meeting held by the city of Bakersfield to discuss 2 possible locations for a new low-barrier shelter.
This is a very important community meeting on behalf of the city council. Let's be clear. We have a crisis on our hands. We have vulnerable men and women who are living on our streets on all 4 corners of our city. And we have to respond as a city.
The city is looking at a site on East Brundage Lane near Mount Vernon Avenue and another at Brown and 18th Streets. The site on Brown Street is close to 2 acres, while the site on East Brundage Lane is a 7-acre property and would include a Bakersfield police substation, something that didn't sit well with everyone.
This community has been asking for a substation for decades. So the only way they're going to get protection is by accepting a homeless facility.
The proposed site on Brown Street still has some criteria to meet, but the one on Brundage Lane is ready to go. And while some people don't like the idea,
does it really make sense to saturate this community with more poverty, more crime? We know that's what's going to happen.
Or they agree with it.
They've thought it through. They have really thought it through. Probably one of the best plans that I've heard from any city up and down 99 here.
The proposed Brundage Lane site will go before the City Council for discussion on January 22nd. If you didn't attend the meeting but have a question, comment, or concern about the project, you can send that to communityoutreach@bakersfieldcity.us. Amber Frias, 17 News.
Just coming into our newsroom this morning, Governor Gavin Newsom is set to issue an executive order aimed at getting homeless people off the streets of cities across the state. The goal is to immediately find homeless people temporary housing on a short-term and emergency basis. Areas that might be used for this purpose include vacant hospitals, Caltrans properties across from highways, and fairgrounds where a shelter crisis is in effect. This announcement comes as Governor Newsom is set to roll out the proposed state budget this week. The budget will likely include a major focus on homelessness.
County supervisors approved more than $267,000 in grants to help the homeless. It happened yesterday. The board allotted just over $130,000 for the Bakersfield Rescue Mission, $110,000 for the mission at Kern, and another $22,000 for Flood Bakersfield Ministries. County representatives say the funds are from the federal government and will help with emergency shelter assistance, rehousing assistance, and street outreach.
Your time now is 5:10, and a major earthquake shook the Ridgecrest area to its core 6 months ago.
17's Karen Waugh went back to the city's only animal shelter open at the time of the quake to see how they're doing finding homeless pets homes.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News with Maddie Jansen, Alex Fisher, and Kevin Charette with your Pinpoint Doppler forecast. This is 17 News at Sunrise.
Welcome back here at 522. Our return to Ridgecrest coverage continues.
17's Karen Waugh visited the only animal shelter open during the July earthquakes, and she brings us this heartwarming story.
After the earthquakes, not only were people displaced from their houses, many pets were too. So one rescue stepped up, but there are still animals looking for forever homes.
Come here, Lucky. Good boy. Hi, Luna. You want to come out?
It's been a rough road for these two.
She purrs really nice.
A pit mix and a cat abandoned during the 4th of July earthquakes.
When the earthquake started and the fireworks combined, we ended up opening 24/7.
Almost Eden Rescue in Ridgecrest picked them up during the chaotic holiday weekend.
We were the only thing that was open for 2-hour drive in any direction.
The rescue received so many animals, they were forced to expand from their main facility.
We have a warehouse. Yeah, this is it.
They called it the Ark.
We were getting about easily 50 dogs a day, plus cats, plus rabbits that were lost, misplaced, hurt. Good boy.
Almost all the animals were eventually reunited with their owners or adopted out. But at the end of the flood, the Ark had just 2 left. Lucky and Luna.
He doesn't know that he's not wanted. And yes, and they get lots of loves and lots of visits.
The community has since come together to their rescue.
The washer and dryer were donated to us. Cat food and dog food, more dog food. Fencing, the wood fencing back here was put up by the community. Very touched.
Making this a happy tale for Lucky and Luna.
And so is he. Just so much was done. And I love Ridgecrest.
Karen Waugh.
Love you.
17 News.
This fall on 17 News at Sunrise, we highlighted a report from Caltech scientists that noted new movement along a fault that runs through Kern County. Scientists previously have never recorded movement on the Garlock Fault.
So after Ridgecrest, there was a pretty significant earthquake, the two that we felt July 4th and July 5th. There were a series of tens of thousands of earthquakes that have been going. The rest of them were much smaller, all the way through the eastern California shear zones, up Owens Valley, and a few that have gone this direction on the Garlock.
I took a trip there with geologist and seismologist Emily Fisher to talk about the implications of the recent movement.
So the Garlock Fault is that border between the Sierras and the Mojave and all these different regions. So it's a really interesting fault, and I don't know that we fully understand what's going on with it yet.
The Garlock runs through several Kern County communities, including Tehachapi and Fraser Park, and dead ends into the San Andreas Fault. So what would an earthquake along the Garlock look like?
We would feel in Bakersfield, which is why that article was a bit alarming to us. You'd probably feel it in the whole area from Ridgecrest and Los Angeles.
And what does the new movement mean?
Be prepared, but it shouldn't be as scary as it sounds.
A full report on the Garlock Fault is coming up tonight on 17 News at 5, and we'll also have some tips on preparing for an earthquake, because the only certain thing about them in California is that they are going to happen.
I think that's the biggest concern that we saw last time when we saw those earthquakes was we know where we live. It caught us all off guard, though.
Yeah, because we had 20 years of kind of relative seismic silence where we had not had a lot of big quakes in California. So it was just a reminder that this can happen and will happen, and we should all be prepared.
Absolutely. All right, 5:26 now. A new list just named the best jobs for the new year.
You might be surprised about what the top one was.